Uncle Mark.
Yeah.
You know, it's not great weather right now here in Salt Lake City.
No, well, if you like a very Christmassy sort of vibe, it's great weather. But.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what it's not good for. It's not good for going to the zoo. But I do kind of love going and watching imprisoned animals be bored.
Well, I like this. I like going to the zoo this time of year because it's when they release the snow leopard.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's because it's so cute.
And it's
stalking the children.
Yeah, it culls the herd, as they say here in Utah.
Really, really fun stuff. Well, we got a very special treat.
Yes.
Planned. Why don't you introduce who you've brought?
Well, as we've said in the introduction, we have our very special friend Lauren O'Neill to join us this week, and I think that we, Dan, and the absent Doug are biblical amateurs, dilettantes. I think
we dabble,
but I think Lauren is a bit more than that.
Lauren went
pro. That's very flattering. I don't know if it's true.
I feel like you went pro. I feel like you read the whole thing at least, which is better than I've done.
Yeah. I have.
Yeah, and you've read it quite a bit on the air in your own podcast, Sunday School Dropouts.
Indeed.
But there's a very special sort of part of the Bible you want to talk about today.
Yeah, and that part is aminals.
Yay! and they all are happy and treated well, and everything's fine.
Yeah, that's the main thing to know about animals in the Bible.
Animal welfare is very big in the Bible.
And you can use their jaws as weaponry.
True.
If you need to.
True. You can pull beehives out of lions. It's really extraordinary. But, okay, so I listened to your episode where you were talking about the animals that are clean and unclean in Leviticus.
Yes.
Oh, did we even get through that episode? Because all I can remember is laughing so hard I was crying.
The word weasels really got you.
You could put a gun to my head and said, "Is the word weasel in the Bible?" And with 100% surety, I would have said no.
So something you pointed out in that episode that I had never realized is they go into such detail about different species of birds, right? There's
oh my God,
owls and screech owls and night owls, and there's cranes and herons and ibises and whatever.
Ossifrages.
But then fish are just fish.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which is so extraordinary when you think about the disciples were fishermen.
Right. And the most, and like the fish kingdom, or if that's a thing, is like the most like morphically diverse group of animals. Like,
surely they knew the difference between some fishes, right?
Like octopus and a trout.
I mean, they did separate out the ones with shells.
Yeah.
Right. Fins and scales versus non-fins and scales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so weasels. You were reading from the King James Version.
Yeah.
So something that's interesting is a lot of animals. We have these old Hebrew words from the Old Testament, and we're not exactly sure how to translate them. And so sometimes, for instance, there's this animal that's mentioned called the re'em in Hebrew. And in the King James Version, it's often translated as unicorn.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, like in the NIV, it's translated as wild ox.
What?
Yeah.
They're trying to kill the unicorns?
Well,
I don't approve of this.
No. They're not trying to kill them.
So wait, so I'm not supposed to covet unicorns?
You are not allowed. You're not supposed to tame them. Only God can tame them.
Well, that's the truth.
Which Bible did you grow up with, Lauren?
I grew up with the NIV.
Okay. Well, whatever.
So you didn't even know that there were unicorns?
Nope. Never heard of them before now.
Oh, okay.
Just doing research for this episode. That was the first time I encountered unicorns. No, but so, sometimes, for example, something is a serpent or a basilisk in the KJV, and in more modern translations, it'll be a cobra or a viper. But they try to do like more realistic translations now.
Right.
I'm not sure about
which sounds like a cheat to me. They're just like, you guys, nobody's believing this basilisk thing. Can we come up with something else? Let's call it a cobra. Okay.
But there is actually one instance of kind of the opposite of that, where there's this Hebrew word tanin, and in the Bible, still in modern translations, it's translated as like sea monster or monster of the deep. But in modern Hebrew, it just means crocodile.
Oh.
So like you could translate it as crocodile, but they don't.
Interesting. Well,
Yeah.
it sounds like they just tried to change the Hebrew so that it would make more sense.
I mean, maybe like just a bunch of British guys in the year 1600 didn't know Hebrew that well. You know,
Right.
like, who knows?
Under the direction of a gay king, I think it's important to point out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why he wanted language to be so flowery and pretty.
That's right. 'Cause that's how we are.
So, one of the most interesting passages in the Bible for animals is this big speech that God gives to Job at the end of the book of Job, where basically, Job is like, okay, why did you do all this? Why did you like kill all my family and destroy all my crops and give me boils and whatever?
I think that's a reasonable question.
Yeah.
It does seem like you're not asking too much to ask that.
Right. But God's answer is basically like, I'm God and you're not. So
Right. Go fuck yourself.
sucks to be you. Yeah. But the way he says that is very poetic. I mean, the poetry is actually really beautiful. The passage is very beautiful. The sentiment is abhorrent, but he basically goes through and he's like, were you there when I, created the ocean and the stars? Like, can you cause earthquakes? No? Well, then you don't know. You don't have any grounds to question my authority.
Right.
But he goes through all these animals and he's like, do you make sure the baby ravens are fed? Do you know when the deer gives birth? Like blah, blah, blah. And he goes into a bunch of
Sounds a little bit like a 70s folk song. You know when the baby ravens are fed.
It honestly does. Like that's like, I mean, I feel like 70s folk songs
It's
took
a
a lot from the Book of
Cat
Job.
Stevens song, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's a really cool passage because he goes into all these mythical animals too.
Right.
So he starts with the ravens and the deers and whatever. But then he gets into like the Leviathan.
Right. That's one of my
and-
favorites.
Yeah, hang on, let me pull up the passage.
Yeah, we talked a bit about the Leviathan when we were talking about Spooky Bible, right, Dan?
Yes.
Like the description was very bizarre.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you pull in Leviathan with a fishhook or tie down its tongue with a rope? Can you put a cord through its nose or pierce its jaw with a hook? Will it keep begging you for mercy? Will it speak to you with gentle words? Will it make an agreement with you for you to take it as your slave for life? Can you make a pet of it like a bird or put it on a leash for the young women in your house?
Can God, are you drunk? Are you drunk, God?
Et cetera, et cetera. And the point is, I created this sea monster and I can tame it, I can kill it, I can do whatever I want because I'm God.
That's
What's-
just nuts.
Yeah. The behemoth is also mentioned.
Yeah.
And the behemoth, this is actually the only time in the canonical Bible that the behemoth is mentioned.
Is in this speech at the end
Yes.
of Job?
And it's, look at behemoth, which I made along with you, and which feeds on grass like an ox. What strength it has in its loin. What power in the muscles of its belly. Its tail sways like a cedar. Don't know if it really means the tail or not, but the sinews
Oh,
of its
yeah.
thighs are close knit. Its bones are tubes of bronze. Its limbs like rods of iron. He mentions the tanin, which I mentioned earlier.
That's the crocodile.
Yeah, crocodile or sea monster,
Or
however
sea
you want
monster.
to say it.
Well, I guess if you don't really know what a crocodile is, this looks a lot like a fucking sea monster.
I mean, yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Something that's interesting about the tanin is it's mentioned far more often than the Leviathan in the Bible.
Right.
So like, we all know the word Leviathan. No one's ever heard the word tanin, but it's mentioned far more often. And something I think is really interesting about it is it also appears in like other Mesopotamian mythology.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
So in the Baal cycle, you remember our good buddy Baal.
I love Baal.
He's,
Big fan of his work.
Yeah.
He had a lot of fans among the ancient Israelites, unfortunately for them.
Yeah.
But in the Baal cycle, the Tanin is a servant of the sea god Yam or Yamu. And Yam still means ocean in modern Hebrew.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's interesting that there's this other, like, there's just this kind of monster in there that's just kind of like, I don't know, the Cyclops or, a centaur or something. It's like from another culture or also existed in other cultures. And you can find it in the Bible if you look hard enough.
Yeah, it is fascinating that I love that, they just took one of the monsters from one of the other religions and threw that in. But
I mean, it's probably more like it was in both of them, and then Judaism grew away from that or whatever.
Right.
But also, like, when you read the accounts of the Leviathan and the behemoth and whatever, it talks as though we, the reader, should know what he's talking about. Like, the way it's presented is just like, and also the eagle, and what about the giraffe, and also the Leviathan?
Yeah.
Like, it's. I feel like there's a J.R.R. Tolkien element to this that we're not acknowledging.
It's like the Bible extended universe.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there, like you were saying, how now it's not sea monster anymore; it's crocodile or whatever. It seems like there's this, somewhere along the line, and it's probably all those English guys in 16 whatever decided this is way too fantastical. We've got to kind of lean towards the real a little bit. Is that kind of what you think went on, or?
I mean, I think that's probably a trend in modern Bible translations. But looking at the original Bible, I think it just actually kind of reveals that there is this pre-Judaic history there that we have kind of just like erased and pretended it's not there, but it's still in there,
Yeah.
Well, and they just believed in monsters.
I mean,
it seems like this is a book from a time when they believed in crazy monsters.
And honestly, if you didn't know anything about biology and you saw a whale,
oh my God,
what would you think?
It'd blow your mind.
Yeah, it's a sea monster.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Lilith is mentioned in the Bible. I believe she just is mentioned once by name, right?
In the canonical Bible, yes.
Yeah. But she's like a Mesopotamian creature, right?
Yeah, a night demon.
Yeah.
But in the NIV, Lilith in that passage is translated as like screech owl or.
Right. That's right. She's an angry bird.
Yeah, she's a bird of the night.
That's one of our conclusions from like our readings of the Bible, Lauren, is that it's big into ointments. And
ointments are huge.
Ointments it's a big business, and
nard especially.
Totally.
One of my favorite ointments.
Little good spikenard. Everybody loves a good spikenard.
And I don't know how to say this. Or arachnophobia, like fear of.
Or nithophobia.
Or nithophobia, fear of birds.
Fear of birds.
There's like a tremendous phobia about birds in the Bible.
So I have another mythical bird for you.
Oh,
good.
It's called the Ziz. Have you ever heard of him?
What is it? How to say it again?
The Ziz or Ziz in Hebrew. It's spelled Z-I-Z.
Oh, no.
I like a Ziz.
It's, you have your behemoth on the land, you have your Leviathan in the water, so you need a Ziz in the air,
Yeah.
And the Ziz is mentioned in the canonical Bible a few times, but it's usually translated as a swarm of insects.
Oh.
But outside of the Bible, so the cool thing about Judaism that those of us who are not from Judaism often don't understand
is they have so many holidays.
Well, that's true.
Yes.
But also, in addition to the Tanakh or the Bible, there's all these rabbinical texts, right? There's like the Talmud, there's the Mishnah, there's all kinds of stuff. Right. And that all expands on not only on philosophy and on theology, but also on mythology and folklore. So the Ziz is maybe a swarm of insects in the canonical Bible, but outside of the Bible, there's a rich tradition of the Ziz as this gigantic bird.
Oh, wow.
who, like when he stands in the ocean, it only comes up to his ankles and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, I love it.
And, I guess she once laid an egg that, crushed an entire forest or whatever.
This would make a great high school mascot.
Totally.
I feel like the East Valley Zezes are just begging to happen.
And something interesting, actually, this would be good for high school students because there's a bunch of stories about the Z's helping out young couples in love.
Oh.
Where the Z's will, the princess is locked in a tower or whatever, and the Z's will fly her suitor up to the tower. So they can, study Torah together or whatever.
Oh, so he's not, or she's not, or whatever they are, is not hostile.
In those stories, no. There might be other stories where it is hostile. I don't know.
I think it's a nice. I feel like it's just a very nice, terrifying mythical bird.
I love it. Yes.
Do we? Could this be the origin of the stork? In kind of Western, not even folk.
I have no idea. I hadn't thought of that.
You mean the delivering babies part of the story?
Yeah, if it's involved in young love and interesting.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Another cool thing about the Ziz, the Leviathan, and the Behemoth, but especially the Leviathan and the Behemoth, is that in Jewish mythology there are a lot of stories about how at the end of days, at the final banquet.
Right.
People will get to sometimes hunt these animals and then eat them.
Oh, God. You haven't lived till you've had Ziz fricassee.
Yeah, exactly. And a big slab of Leviathan chop.
Yes.
Sometimes also the banqueting tent will be made of the skin of the Leviathan or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, so those are...
Do you guys remember the movie The Freshman? I feel like that's what we're...
That's right. Were the gentleman's club that was secret and they would eat like the last of an endangered species?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I missed out on that film.
You're probably too young for that. We're old guys. So
right.
I don't know how young you are, but...
I think it was one of Brando's last movies.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. It was brilliant.
I'm 33, so I'm in my Jesus year right now.
Okay.
Very
Congratulations.
excited to see what the Lord has planned for me.
Yeah. Go watch. Go watch. Look, it's COVID times. You got nothing else to do. Go watch the Freshman. You'll enjoy it. Matthew Broderick. It's fun.
Another cool thing about these mythological beasts is that there is only one of each.
Okay.
Because otherwise, there would be they would start reproducing, and then the world would run out of room because they're so gigantic.
Right. We would know about them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if there were more than one of them.
Yeah, so they're total one-offs. There's not multiple Leviathans.
Correct.
It's like Nessie.
Yes, exactly. Although some stories do have that there is there was originally a mating pair that God created on, the fifth day or whatever. But then he castrated one of them so they couldn't reproduce.
One of them caught a cold.
Wow.
Another mythological bird in the Bible, and it is mentioned once in the canonical Bible, again in the book of Job, is the phoenix. We translate it as phoenix. It's not exactly the same. In Hebrew, it's the chol, but it is a bird that never dies. It, instead of bursting into flames, it grows smaller and smaller, and then it reappears.
It just shrinks.
Yep, just shrinks.
Wow.
And there are legends that it's the only animal that didn't eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge when Eve offered it. Apparently, once Eve got a taste of that fruit, she was like, "You guys."
So wait, because every animal is
you all got to try this, yeah.
Because animals are all naked and fornicate. Is that it?
I guess so, yeah.
She turned to the elephant behind her and was like, "You got to try this."
Just you have never tasted anything like this in your life. But the phoenix abstained, so the phoenix gets to live forever.
And just kind of get super small and then get big.
Yes.
So the phoenix is on, and I won't mention it, but on a severely dissociative drug that causes that kind of phenomenon mentally. I get it.
Yeah.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
I could keep hitting you with these mythological beasts from the Bible.
Give us another one.
As long as you want.
I want to hear them. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah. So there's
after you took unicorns away from me, I got real sad. So I'm enjoying
I can tell you more about the Re'em, which, used to be translated more often as unicorn and now wild ox or Aurochs, Auroch.
Okay.
Which is the type of wild ox that you see in cave paintings.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
In modern Hebrew, it means Oryx, Oryx, as in the antelope that existed in Israel.
Yeah.
Those two words, turns out, are not related at all.
Interesting.
I thought Oryx must be related. Nope, just a coincidence.
Weird.
Yeah.
But there is a myth that one day King David walked up the horn of a Re'em thinking it was a mountain. It was so big that he didn't realize he was standing on an animal.
Oh, okay. So not your average antelope then.
No, this is the mythical Re'em that only God can tame, and Job could not possibly hope to put a hook in its nose or whatever.
Well, King David probably needed a little alone time after he got scolded for his sexual dance in front of the ark.
Well, and the census too.
And the census. So yeah.
But unfortunately, the beast stood up, and then David found himself in the clouds accidentally. So God caused a lion to appear, and since the lion is the king of the beasts, the Re'em had to bow to it.
Oh.
Which allowed David to dismount.
That is a roundabout way. You'd think, look, God theoretically is going to be omnipotent. You'd think it could just say, okay, bow down, let him off. But I do like going about it with the with the angle of like, I'll summon a different beast.
Yes.
We'll just complicate things.
When you have a problem caused by an animal, you have to solve it with an animal. That's
animals, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the NRA's argument in America. Right? More guns.
A good guy with an animal. Yeah.
All right. Hit us with one more mythical beast.
Okay, let's see. How about the Rahav? In English we anglicize it as Rahab, but it's not the same as Rahab the prostitute. In the book of, what is it, Joshua?
We talked about Rahab, didn't we, Dan?
We definitely know the book.
Yeah, Rahab rules, so. But her name is Rahav, and then this is Rahav without the ch. So
okay.
This is another sea monster. He's very arrogant.
Typical.
God told him.
I like knowing personality traits of the mythical sea monsters.
This is actually his main thing, is that he's arrogant and disobedient because God told him to drink all the water in the world, and he said, "I'm not thirsty, thanks."
What? Why did God want him to drink all the water in the world?
Unclear.
Oh, okay.
That's not for you to ask.
Was that a post-flood solution?
Maybe.
Little antediluvian answers.
And that is also used as a poetic epithet for Egypt. Because it's like, oh, they're so arrogant, they wouldn't drink all the water, I guess.
Those dicks. Probably they wouldn't even drink all the water in the world if you told them to.
And officially in modern Hebrew, the name for the planet Neptune is Rahav.
Really?
Because it's kind of like the closest thing to like a sea god.
Okay.
Which Neptune is in Roman mythology.
so that's modern Hebrew, because obviously the ancients did not know of Neptune.
Yes, but I think as far as I know, most people in Israel just call it Neptune. But there's like an official name for it as Rahav.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, and actually, interestingly, that planet will also not drink all of your water.
It's so annoying, honestly.
It makes a lot of sense, really, as a name.
My takeaway from all this is I'm really bummed that these stories are not in the Bible.
I know, right? They're so great. I love, like, something that I really have loved about my podcast is getting to research Jewish mythology from outside the Bible, because it's often it's like got the same bones, but it's more like folkloric. It's kind of like in the book of Daniel, where you get all these cool like folklore stories.
Yeah.
And they're so cool, especially when you got animals involved.
Well,
indeed.
So the Bible just got more boring. Great.
Yeah. Oh, I have one trivia fact for you about animals in the Bible.
Oh, tell us.
All right, hit us.
Cats are never mentioned.
Really?
Oh.
Domestic cats.
Never mentioned once.
Really?
You got dogs, you got lions, you got horses, whatever. You got every type of bird that they could think of.
Every fucking bird. Locusts, crickets. Yeah.
Not a single cat.
Weird.
Wow.
That's super weird.
So the jury's out on whether cats chew their cud or not.
I think they have cloven hooves.
Yeah. And 6 legs. And I've
never seen a cat.
That makes me love my cats all the more. So that they're not in the Bible. Yay for that.
There you go.
Well, Lauren, thank you so much for this amazing and informative bestiary.
Well, thank you so much for having me on and letting me talk about my favorite things.
Let our podcast listeners know where they can go to hear you expound further on the horrible things in the bad book.
So my podcast is called Sunday School Dropouts. I co-host it with my husband, Nico Bakulich. You can find it if you search for Sunday School Dropouts on any podcatcher. And it's on Twitter at SunschoolDrop. We do have an episode called Beasts of the Bible, which will rehash a lot of the stuff that you just heard, but it has some extra stuff too.
Thank you, Lauren O'Neill, so much for coming on. We sure do appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Then let's move on.